This is Jeremy. This is the Coalesce Fitness Solutions podcast. I had a couple of really good conversations today with two different people, actually, both about nutrition, and we got to talking about some nutrition, like the basics of nutrition. And for beginners, we have a lot of people just starting out now, and one of the principles that we've always tried to teach with nutrition was to limit food choices to certain food groups or categories. And one of the diets that I always lean towards is a paleo diet. Whole food or whole 30 is a very similar kind of diet where you remove certain things a certain period of time and then reintroduce things to see what kind of foods could be pro-inflammatory to your body. So the paleo diet recommends removing grains, legumes, and dairy. So like things like wheat and corn, milk, obviously, legumes, dairy, beans basically is legumes. And so one of the things that we would teach was to eat proteins, eat lots of vegetables, avoid those food types. And then after a while, you reintroduce the foods and see how things are going. But regardless of what nutrition protocol you decide to follow, the reality of an effective nutrition plan is it comes down to habits. It comes down to what framework are you going to put into place at home, at work, on your way to work, whatever the things are that is going to help you to adhere to it. Because without the behavior pattern to support the goal, it doesn't matter how many grams of carbs or how many ounces of protein you're taking in. If your framework isn't structured, your day isn't structured for success, it's going to be impossible to succeed. I mean, that obviously goes, I guess you could succeed on luck, but unfortunately luck doesn't work. Well, I guess luck works for your genetics when you're born. However, after that, there's a lot that comes down to choice, and obviously genetics play a factor in body weight and bone density and how our bodies store fat. But regardless of what the physical goal is, nutrition is the foundation of that, whether that be fat loss or muscle gain. Nutrition is going to be the foundation of that stuff. But for beginners, it can get really easy to overcomplicate what you should and shouldn't eat, how much you should eat. And realistically, life is meant to be lived. Like we're trying to create habits that are going to keep us moving in the right direction without swaying the ship too far off course. So things are going to happen, weddings, parties, holidays, but what can we do for the other 90% of the time throughout the year that we're moving our bodies in a positive way, that we're going to start to see whatever the goal is for you as an individual. If it's fat loss, it's really about eating a lot of like nutrient dense foods, eating a lot of protein and a lot of nutrient dense vegetables, and trying to just eat as much of those as you kind of can to stay full, and exercise regularly. And people drop weight and body fat pretty quickly without overthinking how much that they should be eating. And then along come the holidays and that kind of stuff. You eat whatever you want, things you put on a couple of pounds. But what I think most people what seems to be a stumbling block for a lot of people is the idea of like, well, if I stop doing this, I'll just put the weight back on, which on some level is true, depending on how far off course you go and for how long. As a culture, we try to promote consistency. What's the thing that you can maintain, and what's the thing that's going to effectively move the needle in the direction that you want it to go? And what is it that, and what are the structures, what are the frameworks that we can put into place to help move things in that direction? And what are the checkpoints where we can evaluate, like, is this working towards the ultimate goal of whatever that thing is. So one of the biggest things is cooking, right? For nutrition, it's like you have to kind of prepare your own food. Like you could find companies that can do it for you, and they could do a pretty good job. But most of the time, you're going to end up having to cook for yourself. And regardless of what nutrition plan or what prescription you're following, just having ways to cut time and to save effort, having methods in place that are going to help you make better food. And because the better you make your food, the more time you actually put into it, and look into preparing some meals that are interesting, at least you're going to be more adherent to that stuff. So finding the things that you can cook, that you can prepare in bulk usually, because when you're trying to follow a nutrition plan, one of the things that you're going to realize is like your food choices become more limited, as far as like the types of food that you can eat, because you're removing a whole lot of stuff that comes from wheat, like breads and cereals and pasta. And so you don't have those to choose from. Those kind of cover a lot of what most people eat regularly. But you also you're not going to be you're going to be making big portions of like chicken and steak and that kind of stuff. So you can cook off pounds of chicken in a crock pot or an Instapot and have a bunch of shredded chicken and be able to like use that for later on when you're kind of on the run. And then taking some time to kind of prepare things and portion off your meals for the day, and just eat enough food to feel full, and then find that nutrition plan, find that protocol that you can adhere to. The one that works is the one that you can follow. And the more frameworks you put into place, the more strategies you implement and execute on. And obviously that's the stumbling block, is the execution. But the more regularly you execute, the more it becomes a habit. And then it becomes a lot easier to maintain, and it becomes a lot easier to get back on track. The hardest part is getting started. And I think obviously everyone knows that, because after some time, it becomes second nature. And the longer you do it, the longer you maintain a habit, the easier it is to maintain, and the more it becomes part of just kind of who you are. So for all of our new people, and for some of us who have been training for a while and are just getting into a new season, seemingly to me like September always feels more like a beginning of a year with school starting and autumn coming. I'm more likely to have a reset in September where I feel like new things are beginning. And so that's when I really kind of buckle down on my nutrition. And that's when I see a lot more people recommitting to their training and their nutrition. So if it's that time of year for you, or if you're just starting this out for the first time, start to think about because right now you already have a pattern in place. Like, what's the pattern that you have in place, and what are the checkpoints along the way that need to change in order for you to maintain that framework and execute on those strategies. All right, guys. So any questions that you have on your nutrition planning strategies for executing on that stuff, comment below, email, text, whatever. Talk to you guys soon.